Alright guys, welcome back. I'm here with another video. I want to do something kind of special, and this is going to be different than the videos I've been doing up to this point, because this time I want to talk about something that I'm hearing some about around the edges. And I really kind of want to go over it because I want you to understand. And um, I want you to understand that everything that our society and you and I are going through as men, and everything that the red pill teaches us, it also has consequences. I start my book out by talking about consequences because there are consequences to the things that we do in life. And there are consequences not only to what we do in life individually, but what we do in life corporately. And I want you to get a little handle in understanding of where we're at, and probably where we're going if we don't start figuring out what else we can do. So, one of the things that you'll hear every once in a while are these discussions about whether or not um, the United States is like Rome and on the edge of collapse and on the verge of, of passing away as a great empire or great world power. And for the most part, I kind of blow those things off. For the most part, there's not a whole lot to say about them. On the other hand, I do want you to know that, as you can see here on my screen, I brought up some books by Will Durant. Um, Many years ago, I had a chance to read, not all of them, but a good amount of those books, all the way up through the Renaissance. And I think the last one I got to read was The Age of Voltaire. So I got a good idea of what kind of really happened. And what really happened is probably a little bit more disturbing than how it's been portrayed. At least when it comes to you and I, and what it means for our lives and our civilization and where we are. So if this is still red pill, but this is a little more widespread, more generic and general red pill kind of content. But it does apply, and I want to talk about that. Um, I want to talk about it in two ways. First of all, I want to go over what really happened to Rome. And then I want to explain to you how that just might match some of what we're going through today. So let's begin with this. Rome did not fall, per se, in the sense that it was never razed to the ground, its citizens were never slaughtered, um, its leaders were never put in chains and hauled away, per se, like you would see with the fall of Jerusalem or the fall of Babylon, or you know Nineveh, or any of that. You never see quite that kind of, this barbarian horde just came in, or this other nation that just grew stronger came in and just obliterated the capital and sent the empire packing, and there was nothing left of it after that. That's not what happened to Rome. And the reason I have Will Durant up here is because he does talk about what happened to Rome. And understanding that, his version is a lot more important than understanding books written specifically about the fall of Rome. Because he tells you something about the real story that you need to understand. And you can find a lot of this stuff that they're talking about in other sources as well. For example, um, the Roman Senate. It was many years after there was no more Roman Senate when the last person who claimed to be a Roman senator, or claimed to have a right to be a senator, was recorded in history. And that's important, Because Rome was only partially defeated on the battlefield. Rome was only partially subjugated to her enemies. Rome never suffered the worst violence that you do when you have a collapsing empire. And that's because Rome didn't collapse in the same way you're thinking of. For example, the Ostrogoths were the first ones to invade the Roman countryside around Italy and to be the first ones to enter Rome. They didn't really sack it. They didn't do any damage to it at all for the most part. What happened was less physical numbers and brute strength power. What happened to Rome didn't happen out here. It happened up here. You see, what really happened was Rome had been on decline for a long, long time. And they had seen good leaders, bad leaders. You know, they had seen Caligula, they had seen Nero. But somewhere along the way, as the empire began to shrink, the people stopped believing. They stopped believing Rome was special. They stopped believing that Rome was powerful. They stopped believing in Pax Romana. They stopped believing that Rome was important. They stopped believing that they were powerful. They stopped believing in the Senate. They stopped believing in Caesar. As Will Durant would point out to you, it wasn't a matter of collapse in the sense that of a military collapse or being driven away by a drought or a flood. It wasn't anything like that. Just one day, there was just no more Caesar. One day, there was just no more Senate. The Senate, the people that had been in the Senate, actually established a framework for the medieval society that followed. Because what they did was, they took their troops and they took their men and they went home. And they managed their own little fiefdom, however much land they owned, and they quit providing soldiers, and they quit providing money, and they quit providing power to Rome because they no longer believed in it. The people stopped believing in it. The people no longer followed. The Senate no longer wielded its authority. And Caesar no longer ruled. Rome didn't fall as much as they quit. That's important. Because that does look like what's happening today. Much like the Roman citizens, we no longer believe the story of how special we are. And when you stop believing, you stop trying. At least you stop trying to build something too much bigger than yourself. You become humanity writ small. You become selfish. You become narcissistic. You become self-centered. Things that would normally be held in check, like hypergamy, now run free. Because there's nothing bigger. Our biggest problem here today, ladies and gentlemen, is that we stopped believing. And here's the kicker. America has basically sucked itself dry from the inside out. We don't believe on the inside. Generation X are absolutely not proud to be American. And I'll show you the article and we'll post the link to that so that you can see it. But I want you to understand it. I want you to get this. That when you don't believe, that's when you do things like quiet quit. Rome didn't so much as fall as everybody quiet quit. And so we've left ourselves kind of like the Tin Man, right? In The Wizard of Oz. You know, the Tin Man didn't just lack a heart. When he opened his chest up, he was empty. He had the outward form, and it looked strong, and it looked shiny, and it looked nice. But it was just tin, and it was just the outside. There wasn't anything on the inside. And when there's nothing to motivate you, then you start to stagnate. And what does the Tin Man need when he stops moving? He needs oil at all of his joints. Because he no longer moves enough to just knock the rust off and keep it away by wear. And he no longer swings the axe and does the things that makes him valuable as a Tin Man. Because he doesn't believe anymore. As far as the other circumstances, probably not. We don't have invading armies. We don't have the same kind of concerns with food, importing food from Egypt or the Middle East like Rome had to do from Africa. There's a whole lot of that doesn't apply. But one thing applies. It matters what you believe and how much you believe. So that's my little talk for you today. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share this if you like it, tell others. I appreciate you greatly, and you will see me again soon enough.